Hello and welcome to the first episode of Console Clash. I have got Luke Hemming here.
Hello.
And I've got Sandy Kirchner-Wilson.
Hello.
And the three of us are going to be talking how the PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles are console clashing in the gaming market. This is a series dedicated to finding out which console is the most superior, if there is one at all. Now, I've got Team Sandy and I've got Team Luke, and they're both going to advocate for their chosen console of choice throughout this series of Console Clash. And today we're actually going to talk about the consoles themselves, and we're going to go and transgress as this goes on throughout the series, talking about a variety of different factors as to why you can choose which console and which console makes it best console there is. I'm just rambling right now. Guys, jump in and save me. We are going to go straight to our first point. That is the console itself, and let's go all the way back to the start. The announcements of the consoles, the pre-orders, the reveals, etc. Luke, you're talking today about the Xbox Series consoles. I believe this was the first to announce, wasn't it? So why don't you take it away and let me know your thoughts about the announcements and how that went down?
Well, I think it was a bit under the radar. It felt everybody was holding out for that big PS5 announcement. There'd been loads of talk about it for a long time, and then Xbox came out swinging. Really, a nice sleek console, that perfect reveal, just showing just a beautiful design, I thought.
Yeah.
And I expected a lot from it, and I think they lived up to that just in their announcement. They certainly held their own in terms of what was coming, I think.
Yeah, I just, even in hindsight, without even looking back on it too much in terms of looking it up, I think Microsoft came out, they gave all the information that was needed, they gave the price, the availability of the date when you pre-order, etc. But that's not to say that Sony didn't do something similar. Sandy, do you remember the PS5 launch?
I do indeed. So I remember everyone was obviously sitting like, oh, it must be coming soon. You know, they're on the cusp of the announcement. And then they dropped their sort of flashy PS5. This is the console. This is what it's going to look like. This is our new controller trailer. And everyone was like, you know what? It looks like an air conditioning unit, but very nice. And then, you know, they backed that up with a follow-up trailer of here's some of the games we're working on. Obviously, some of them haven't come out yet, but everyone was suitably hyped by, I think, sort of those PlayStation IPs coming to their new console.
I was thinking it was the other way around for some reason. I felt like they announced a lot of the games first, and then they saved the reveal of the actual console towards the end of that showcase, and then they put the pricing at the end. Am I going crazy?
Ooh, maybe. I was pretty sure it was the other way around, but you could be right.
Luke, I felt like you live streamed this event. But,
I did. I was there. I think it was a bit of both. I think we got glimpses of the corners for those first 30 seconds, a little flash of white.
It kept on scrolling past, and then
that's what it was.
And then
yeah, they did like the sweeping views of like a bit of the console, and they cut to a game, and then they cut back to their
just teasing you
animation
through and through, holding out.
That's what it was
to stay to the end, because you'd all gone and pre-ordered an Xbox already.
Well,
decorated them in my mind.
Well, I was literally going to say, Sandy, when that comes to it, the pre-ordering phase for the PlayStation 5, then that literally I think came the day afterwards, unannounced. How did that go in the community, PlayStation?
Well, I think reasonably successful for those who were prepared, but for anyone who it kind of snuck up on, I believe that I still love the PS5, but getting your hands on one is very hard. I think the pre-orders were sold out in seconds, not even minutes.
I think it was very hard at launch to get one. But what you said there hit the nail on the head. You have to be prepared. And when consoles get announced like this, and we've seen it recently with the Steam Deck, you know that the pre-order is going to be right around the corner. And I know some people don't necessarily have the funds and the cash just like ready to drop, £500, £600 straight away on something like this. So I totally do understand that. But people knew the PS5 was coming. They might not have realized it was coming that day or whatever, but they knew it was coming. The price is obviously all up in the air, but people knew that it was going to be roughly there and thereabouts. On the other hand, though, Luke, Microsoft, they put out tweets. They sort of tried to shame Sony Sony at the time, by saying, "Well, no, this is our strategy. It's going to be this date." Now, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Microsoft's approach, or do you prefer Sony's approach of just drop it and, free for all?
I think, as you said, preparation was the big key, and for people that work in the industry and for people who actively follow these things, getting that PS5 probably wasn't too big an issue. I know that us guys didn't have that problem, but if you're looking to cover a general market, and if you're looking to not anger people the way that the PlayStation did, you have to put the work in. You have to say, okay, you're not getting it tomorrow, but here is all the information, not just little tidbits. Be ready on this day, be ready with this amount, and be ready at these places. I think they even went to the point of saying, like, this is where we're going to have them. They'd already informed retailers who were straight away saying, we're going to have them at this day, we're letting it go at this time. Because, I had the experience of both, and seeing those PlayStation orders go through and seeing, oh, do I need to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning just to jump on something and hope that I get it? Whereas I can have a nice week of relaxing and just be ready on that day with everything prepared. I think Microsoft really, and it probably was reactive. They gave that much more information just to really show up Sony, and there was no issue there, I don't think.
Yeah, and just talking about it in terms of not just at the launch. Let's talk about it since launch. Sandy, the PS5, still hard to get, still difficult. Do you think this is an issue with Sony not necessarily producing enough units, or not being great at communication with the retailers, or do you think it's just demand outstripping supply?
So given the issues getting enough silicone to make even, say, graphics cards and processors and stuff at the moment, I can see that Sony is legitimately having issues building enough consoles to meet demand. But I also feel like maybe they need just a little bit more communication on which retailers are going to have stock and when. Kudos to them. They have come out and said, we're struggling to sell them in Europe properly, so they're going to sell them themselves. They're going to be the distributor, which I think is a really sensible way for them to approach that. I think it's really going to help their it's going to help the fans actually get their hands on them who are still vying for one. Obviously, I myself didn't buy one on launch. And one day I was like, you know what, PS5 time. Went online, stayed up until 2 a.m. to watch the Argos stock. Clicked go, went through what was, let's say, a slightly harrowing process where it was telling me it wasn't there, but it was there, and then got it the next day. So I think, again, as long as you stay prepared, you can still get one when they come in stock. But Sony offering to be the sellers themselves is definitely going to help ease that supply chain, I think.
Yeah, I mean, is it a case of who wants it more? Who dares wins, whoever.
Oh, definitely.
I waited up till 4 a.m. to get my PS5. Sandy, you just waited up to 2 a.m. We both used Argos. Luke, have Xbox have the same difficulties in terms of getting stock out with both Series S and Series X?
Do you know, I really don't know if there's more of them out there, or if the demand is as high as the PS5. I don't think that lack of consoles has hurt Sony in any way. There may be a lot of angry people, but nobody is, from what I'm seeing, has gone, okay, well, if you haven't got one ready for me, I'm not picking one up. But like Sandy said, kudos to PlayStation for distributing them themselves. They've really picked that up, and I think they've made amends for it. But I never feel like Microsoft were in a position that they had to make any promises. I think if I wanted a Series X now, if I didn't have one, I could get one tomorrow. I don't think it would be a massive issue. Yeah. No. Well, as Sandy said, he didn't get his PS5 on release. I didn't get my Series X on release, and the same situation. It is a case of if you wanted more, but if you're willing to put that work in, and it, an hour or two of a bit of website trawling, keeping an eye on the social media channels, and I had mine the next day as well. So I think they're out there, but there was never that uproar with Microsoft in the way the PlayStation was. I think they've had a steady stream coming through.
So Sandy kind of mentioned there about the silicon chips and semiconductors and all that kind of stuff, and we know there's chip shortages for other techs. But do you think the main issue here for supply could be scalpers? Do you think that scalpers are still winning the day? Do you think any retailers are taking these necessary steps to stop scalping? And do you have any examples? This goes to either of you, whoever wants to talk about it first.
Well, the advantage of, say, buying through Argos like we did is that they have a small amount of consoles per local area, and therefore it's literally impossible for a scalper bot to get on there and order all of their stock. Whereas on the day I was buying mine, I did check Amazon as well. Amazon's were gone like 15 seconds, boom, gone, everything. And that was definitely scalper bots. Not a chance that was real people. It was way too quick.
Do you think the scalpers are? Do you think the scalpers are actually selling them? I know it's a really weird thing to say, because surely they wouldn't be buying as many if they just had loads sitting in the store cupboard over there. But maybe because they keep buying them, they keep the price artificially high. But I mean, I don't understand. Surely people aren't paying 1,000 or whatever it is that scalpers are charging.
I think they were in that first couple of weeks, but I've got images now of hundreds of scalpers with 20 PS5s behind them who are going to make maybe 20 quid profit on their PS5s. And I don't think Microsoft had that problem either, but I think the reason Microsoft didn't have it, because when it came out, I don't think the Series X was the buzzword like the PS5 was. These guys directly targeted the PlayStations. You never hear about Series X scalpers.
So do you think, Luke, in that sense, then there are more Xbox fans who have Xboxes in their hands versus PlayStation? So PlayStation might have shifted a lot of units, but they're sitting in scalpers' hands or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that.
What you're saying is the fan base is better with Xbox right now.
That's a bold word to put in my mouth, but yeah, I think the people who own a Series X are the people who have a Series X for gaming, not for selling. But
yeah. And you hear that, Sandy. So basically, the people who own PlayStation 5s aren't. This is from Luke's mouth. Aren't real fans.
This is what I said.
And they're just people who have them by chance or because they're richer. How do you respond to that?
Well, at least the PS5 looks interesting.
Well, okay, so it is a different shape. Oh no. No, it is interesting. I find that when it comes to both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, they're both retailing around the same price. Sure, the Series S has got a slight advantage over the PS5 digital edition or whatever they want to call it. But I do think that supply has been an issue since the start of it, and I think it will start to perhaps level itself out by the end of this year, maybe start next year. But I would really love to see, with both of them on the market in full supply against the Switch as well, just to see which one sells more, because we've heard situations where the Switch is still the number one selling console 24 months in a row or something like that. And I think the Xbox might have pipped it in the US, which is really insane. The Xbox is the first console to knock the Switch off its perch in 2 years. But is that just because people can't find PS5s or what? Or is it just because the Xbox all of a sudden flooded the market in 1 month to take the crown?
And maybe due to that small lull in Switch hardware being available as well.
Yeah.
People were like, boom, 250 quid Xbox, I'll take that.
Well, okay, this has been the first episode of
Clash Wars?
Console Clash. Well, this has been the first episode of Console Clash, and I would say that in terms of the announcements and everything that we've talked about here, in terms of the announcements, the sort of release, being able to purchase it, I'd probably have to say this point goes to Xbox. Without a doubt, unequivocally, it's been able to get into the hands of fans. It's been able to be communicated better. Sandy, surely you have to agree to all of this.
Yeah,
I
I would mostly agree. Definitely, I feel like their communication was definitely better. Their stock hasn't been absolutely thrown into shambles by scalpers. I think PS5's had a rough start, but I think it'll pick itself back up again.
I'm writing this down, by the way. Score 1 point to Xbox because Xbox is winning. It just makes sense. Luke, any final comments before we wrap up this episode?
I'd like to thank Microsoft and Series X for all their hard work with availability, and a worthy point, and definitely a point well deserved. It can't be argued for this one, but I'm sure we've got plenty more maybe more divided opinions. I don't think there was much choice with this.
Well, there you hear it. So Xbox takes the early lead on our first of our series of Console Clash, but be sure to check us out next week, or very soon, whenever we're going to upload this, for the next episode. Catch you guys later. That's everything.